So this is a weekly calendar. They're called something, I don't know what, but we sit in the wintertime and start doing this in probably December or January based on what we've decided that we want to grow for the upcoming year. And so we've had to calculate how much growing area we have, how much seed we're going to need, and that's based on previous year's sales, a whole bunch of factors we try to take into account. Once we've determined all that, we have to then apply it to a calendar to try and keep us online through the season. So we've got a bunch of beds where we have a A beside them, and that means we have to amend those beds and get them prepared in hopes of having a minimum 1 week of bed prep for a bed. That gives that bed a chance to germinate weed seeds and things like that that we don't want, so that we can terminate them with either a flame weeder, a power harrow, tarp, whatever you want to use. And then gives us a chance, once we've terminated the weeds, now we can put our cash crop in there and have less weed pressure so that that crop actually finishes without us having to spend hours weeding, because the hand weeding becomes the labor on it and the time, just doesn't work. So that's amendment. Granted, it's on a Sunday, but it's just, we wrote it that way. Then we've got all the direct seeded crops that have a DS beside it. So that tells us what's going to be happening every week. So for example, this is week 18 of the year. I don't know what the calendar, how they call that.
Horticultural calendar.
So we can follow people that are really into this business. They know what these week numbers off by heart. We're learning them, and we should have adopted this years ago, but we're making an effort to do it now this year. And it's working pretty good, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so we know that a crop that is being amended, or a bed that is going to be amended in week 18, will be getting direct seeded a week later during week 19, along with maybe the transplants are going in. So the beds for those have been prepped a week ahead of time as well. Right. Same thing, we can go down and kill weeds off with a flame weeder, however we want to do it. Even the BCS for bed shaping, it'll kill a pile of weeds that have now gotten to thread stage. So they've just popped out of the soil.
Right.
And just BCSing exposes them to the sun and they die. So it becomes a really fast way to eliminate weeds. And then there's extra stuff. We've got more room to add things on here. So that's basically how we're doing it. Anything that doesn't get done on this week just falls out of rotation. Or what Cindy will be doing is, if things aren't getting transplanted into the ground, the decision has to be made. As an example, if they're not big enough, we'll hold them over for another week. If they're big enough and the ground isn't ready, either the beds don't exist, so they haven't been prepared yet, or weather is saying don't plant yet if we're getting cold nights coming, the additional step of having to pot them up means a 2-inch pot goes into a 4-inch pot and takes up twice or 3 times as much space in the greenhouse. So sometimes we don't have the space. So it's a juggling act, because you can't stop them from growing. They want to continue to grow and get bigger. So as you pot them up, that root zone takes up this much more space, and then we lose more table space in the germination greenhouse.
Right.
So that's just this. Then we've got a map that we've broken all the areas on the farm down into. So we've got our main harvest area, and then we've got a flower plot, the garden plot, greenhouse plots, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. This should have been done around the other way so that north would have been at the top. We talked about redoing it, but we're going with it as far as this year. And then we've got field 1, 2, and then field 3 is a new area that we've cleared this year. Right. And so currently, using crop rotations, field 2 with these F1 to F6, each little plot within a field number has 8 rows. So there are 8 rows on 5-foot center, 120 feet long. And then you can calculate the square footage per growing bed from that. But these 6 plots, we've broken down into different families so that if we wanted to stay in field 2, we have a crop rotation. We can keep on moving them so that we're not growing one type of crop in the same spot, where you will inevitably get a disease or have pest problems or nutritional loss in the soil and create imbalances. What we want to do is not only have a rotation like that we can use by clearing a third area, which each field plot for us right now is 3/4 of an acre. And so we've got our cash crop, 3/4 of an acre, 48 beds, 120 feet long. Field 1 is currently gone through an overwintering of fall rye, and we're now May 21, I think we are, every week we are. And I'm just now turning that into the soil to prepare for the next cover crop that will be growing cash crops over there next year. So I've got a sequence of things I have to get in and do in time so that that bed is prepared this fall for next spring. And then field 3 is a new area that we just cleared this winter. So we've been spending time leveling it and cultivating it and stone picking, which is everybody's favorite chore. There's never an end to that. And then it's while we're doing that, if we time that field for stone picking properly once every week or every 2 weeks and recultivate it in between, we're getting rid of weed seeds because the soil is still jammed packed full of seeds. Right. So we want to eliminate as many of those that would be competition for cash crops going forward. When we do that, we can then put cover crops in, rebuild soil, rebuild micropopulations, and add biomass to the soil and favor plants we're choosing to grow.
Are you at the point now where this is pretty predictable? I know farming is almost never predictable, but when you do the way you've explained it and prepared it, you're almost like a year ahead. Does that usually turn out okay that way?
No, never. Not yet. And how, 10 years? 10 years, no.
Yeah, Mother Nature has it.
And things have been changing.
Yeah.
I think if we had started out with this exact volume of area and had this grand plan, we would have been able to probably be closer to this years ago. But in starting out, we had this much garden, then that much for a few years, then this much, and at the same time, these extra greenhouse plots were developing. Then this field used to be 4 rows, then became 5, then became 6. Then this one became 6, and then this winter we cleared that. So we're trying to still maintain some sort of law and order while continually growing the small growing areas and then turning everything on its head. So we're maintaining family plots and crop rotations has probably been something that's huge for us. And then the other one is just, no matter where we're growing, doing soil tests and amendment and stuff like that is what gives whatever you're going to try to grow the best chance to grow properly. Right? And so that is just getting the stuff in the ground. So the plan, and then the plan doesn't necessarily always go the way we want it to. And so we utilize 2 binders. One is for doing direct seeding, which would be all of the stuff along here. And the other binder would be for doing all of the stuff that gets started in the greenhouse, and then those dates are tracked as to when they get seeded, how long they'll be in there for, when they get potted up if they need to be, because some of the stuff that we started in February isn't going to be going in the ground right away, but it's slow growing, so it'll get potted up and looked after for quite a while. I can't speak to the time frames. What's an example of, say, we start tomatoes when?
Mid-February? Yeah.
And then they don't go in the ground until April.
Yeah, April in the greenhouse, mid-May for the outside crops.
So they start to, they become this little baby that you look after for all this time.
Yeah.
Kind of fragile.
Yeah, and especially this year. This year was a different year too, where we kept getting these warmer temperatures, and then we'd get these nosedive cold nights to 3 degrees.
Yeah.
And at one point,
Even had frost.
We didn't have a choice. What we had to go out. So it went out, and then we got frost, and it's like, well, we'll see if it all survives. And it has.
Oh, good.
But not always. Last year we lost a couple of 100-foot rows of Beans?
Beans.
Peas? I don't know.
Yeah,
Something.
peas. We lost beans.
You gotta, can't all be winners, right?
No,
You gotta leave
exactly.
something. And so then this board here is only utilized on our harvest day. And this is, again, a whole lot of golden information for us. And there's probably some stuff in here which I don't even know if I could explain it all, but these are all the crops that throughout the course of the year we will be harvesting from. And then we've got an order of importance. And 911, those are probably the most important. Is that why those are on there like that?
This is all.
Oh. But the order of the order of harvest is important because we can't jam up our harvest area when things are coming in. We can't do everything all at once. So we've got to stagger, and when we get full in here with certain things, we've got to send staff to go harvest something else that isn't utilizing this area until we get freed up. And things sometimes just go straight into the fridge, or we postpone what we're harvesting, and that can be based on the day's temperature. You know, we don't want to harvest basil, say, from in the greenhouse at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when it's just cooking hot, because after you've harvested so many leaves, they've just wilted, they're done. And then you've got a terrible looking product that you're trying to market.
Right.
So we're learning all the different aspects as to how you market something, how it holds over, how long it'll last, where to store it. Some crops go in a walk-in cooler, which is down to 2 to 4 degrees.
Right.
Other crops go into what we call our cool room, which has an air conditioner but doesn't run. It's just in there at maybe 8 to 10 degrees. So tomatoes, zucchini, cucumbers, things like that all go. But yeah, out of this, we'll track our location, how much we think we need all the way along, in hopes of having, I guess, data. That's us, we're becoming big data, to figure out and detail our plans moving forward. And then
But it also keeps track of how long the staff actually takes to harvest everything, so we can look back and see, is it a viable crop to do? Do we need to work with them? Do we need to speed them up? So it helps us with that. It helps organizing the staff on the harvest day so that they can also see what needs to be done, how much the weight. We weigh everything that comes in so we don't over harvest or under harvest. We can guesstimate what we have at the farms, what we can sell at the farm stand and what we can sell at the market. So it just keeps us all organized.
And things like these are invaluable because now you don't have to go looking for one of us to find out, oh, well, we didn't get 20 kilograms. We only got 10 so far. Yeah, get the other 10, or, you know, we can make a decision that maybe the other 10 doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, fair enough, things happen. So the radio communication when you're on acreage is invaluable.
Handy.
If everybody has them on. But it's all part of the plan. And then down here we have dog hair or something. Just notes, like, so on harvest day when people are coming in, we're weighing it. It's getting written down. We're tracking what we've got. That's how we're finding out if we've got, you know, our total for the whatever the harvest item is. And again, sometimes it just doesn't work out. Then we've got the chore list. So Cindy and I try to help. We go around early in the morning and come up with what it is that needs to be done for that week. And then it gets put on here, again, in some sort of order that we all know about. So people's initials will be on there with a priority number. When you get it done, go to the next one. And then we'll have certain things like maybe we're doing a stone picking day. That's everybody. So we're all trying to get our chores all finished up so that at 2 o'clock in the total heat of the day, we can get out with pails and start picking stones. And anything that doesn't get done on here, we can circle it or know that maybe it didn't need to get done, or hold it over till the end of the week. So what day are we today? Wednesday. So yeah, we've gone through most of this list. Thursday isn't on here because Thursday is not a chore list day for us. It's a harvest day where we work until everything is harvested. So if that means maybe we're organized and we get it done at 4:30, some days it might not be till 6 or 6:30. And the Friday chore list might not get done if we still have things that we need to harvest. Everything gets postponed, and then there's a bunch of other lists for us to keep track of, and I have my own corner of things to fix.
Mr. Fix-It.
Yeah. The end.
Wow. It sure looks like it keeps it organized for all the workers.
Yeah,
Keeps
well,
them
we're
on
trying
track.
to get input from them too, because we can't just create something and expect it to work for everybody. We can come up with an idea, and then as we're implementing it, is it working or not? And if it's not working, then we pick everyone's brains to come up with something that does work. But
Not to mention it doesn't have to be in our brains as to what needs doing, so that we don't always have to call them the walkie-talkie to.
Oh, right. Drive you crazy.
Yeah, so they can just go to the board and they can see what they have to do next, and kind of eases our day a little bit. So,
Yeah. Oh, great.
yeah.
So this is sort of the general layout.
Yeah.
So now let's go out and go put
Before we
some
go, can I
visuals.
ask you
Yeah,
one question?
yeah.
How long did it take you to put this into action?
10 years.
Really?
No, we started probably in 2017. We did this ourselves. We didn't have any staff.
Oh, okay.
So
Whoa.
yeah, so it was just Lorne and I. So we didn't have to. We did time ourselves, but we didn't this thing. So we would time ourselves so we know what we could get done, just the two of us.
Mhm.
And
That's a
then-
great idea.
Yeah, so then 2018 is when we actually started putting more of a list to be able to time things and see what, and get a little bit more organized with kind of a chore list. I think we heard from our staff that it actually helps quite a bit to get, or like just so they can see what needs to be get done in the weekday. So it's not just like, oh, I just have to do this one all day. kind of
And
thing.
everybody
So-
gets their dopamine when they come in and cross out their thing, right?
Oh, right.
Right? So I'll come in and I'll be like the dopamine stealer, trying to get hijack it and get my fix.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's always evolving, right?
Right.
Even this, none of this is written in stone because we put it up with dry erase marker in case it doesn't work. But we had to start with something, so we just started slapping stuff up.
But we take pictures of it and we send one of our staff members is putting it together on like a weekly as to what this bed generated, how much money we made from it, and so we can look back every year and be like, okay,
Oh, great.
this is what we harvested, this is what the yields were, like everything kind of just works that way, so we can plan in December a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We hope.
Especially considering that Mother Nature has her way sometimes, and the more you can plan and keep ahead of the game, then the more contingency you have in case she destroys something on you.
Yeah, the other part of it that we're finding is it makes a little bit more sense to track this and compile the information weekly, because if we just compile it and don't do anything with it, come October, November, we have to go back through the entire year's worth of information, and then we're calculating and doing different things, where now, as we're having a monthly spreadsheet kind of printed out to see where we're at, we can tell, the farm is in the red until we usually think around July or August. Could we ever get out of the red in June? I don't think so, but we sure don't want to still be in the red by September, because we'll be looking to go get jobs at that point. So it's looking and tracking that stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
It's like a big corporation.
Well, yeah, I'm trying not to be. I mean, that was the whole goal, is to have a simpler lifestyle that